Howdy everyone, That Media Guy here, and outside of VeggieTales, Pixar has to be one of my biggest passions out there. I've seen every single one of their films, aside from Lightyear, because Lightyear, and I've always wanted to talk about Pixar films on this channel, but I could never really find any point in which I could justify making content about them when most of you guys just come here for the veggies. And for those of you wondering about a certain mystery clip that I posted about a year ago, everyone who voted in that associated poll was wrong, but that's a story for another time. But I figured that the veggie well is going to run dry at some point, so I might as well start talking about Pixar, and what better time than the present to start reviewing their films. And the first one that I'm going to tackle is Turning Red. This film is significant for me because it was the newest Pixar film at the time when I moved out of my parents' house and into my very first apartment, becoming an adult for a very first time, having completed college and now being fully on my own. And I guess the transition into adulthood is rather fitting when it comes to this film, considering that, well, there's the scene with the pads that, is available in all of the stores that you can find nationwide. Not that that's really a significant plot point in this movie, it's more like just one scene. I guess the transition from human into red furry panda is supposed to be an allegory for puberty, but if I was a kid, I don't think I would have picked up on that. I think it's subtle enough for most kids to not pick up on that. Anyways, if you've seen the title of this video, you know that I think Turning Red is a real mix. For me personally, which is something I think I could say about every Pixar film since Soul, but again, story for another time, hopefully. However, I think my opinions differ from a lot of other people in that the beginning of the movie is actually my favorite part of the movie. I know a lot of people have complained that the opening of the movie is too high energy for them, but for me, it was that high energy that really had me going. I loved the unique animation style of this film. I loved the over-the-top character personalities from both our main character and the supporting characters. And overall, it just had me excited for what was going to come in the film. However, my positive feelings toward the beginning of the film were correlated with the positive emotions that the main characters were feeling early on in the film. So when the initial panda transformation happens and May becomes much more subdued, that's when my emotions, therefore, become much more subdued and tempered, as the film kind of brings us in for the long haul here. And then after that happens, the plot becomes more predictable. Like, I thought it was pretty obvious that the girls were going to use May's ability to make a lot of money, to go to the concert and all that, and they'd have to go behind their parents' backs, and the transformation would come out, and then something big would happen with the mother. Like, I knew all of that was coming. And while I do think that the climax was pretty cool in the grand scheme of things, overall, the film just wasn't able to maintain the momentum that it had in the early parts of the film. If I had to give you a preview of things to come for the Pixar reviews, I'd say that this film, when compared to the film that came immediately before it, Luca, and the film that came immediately after it, not Lightyear because I haven't seen it, specifically I'm talking about Elemental, I'd say that Turning Red is the more ambitious of the three films, and I can see people liking that film the most as a result, but I think the other two films are easier to sit through, at least for me. What does that mean for the final ranking? Well, that's just gonna have to wait for another day. And to make it clearer, I did enjoy watching this film, but I'm not exactly chomping at the bit to watch it again. I really do think that there is a lot of wasted potential here with May and her friends, which I keep saying her friends because I couldn't be bothered to remember their names, but there is enough early on in the film to make me feel rather torn on it. And if none of what I just said swayed you, then allow me to show you one aspect of this film that might very well be a deal breaker for you.